you don't get on. Like at an eco-village, you kind of can't do that.
No, there's no getting away, is there?
You have to deal with the matter there on the spot as such, because otherwise it just festates and gets bigger and bigger until you do have one of these meetings. And, or if you're really bad, you have a talking stick meeting.
Yeah,
a talking stick meeting.
No, I remember talking stick meetings from my past life, but I'm not sure it's the same thing as what you're talking about. Just briefly explain to the listeners what a talking stick meeting is.
American tradition, where if someone's got the stick, then they can speak for as long or as little as they like.
So that's just the world at large then, basically.
Sometimes they can go on for a very long time, and sometimes it feels like people are just saying the same thing again and again and again.
Yeah. It's one of them parliamentary filibusters, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, and you will get people who will, like on a meeting like that, it's like, right, I've had enough now, I'm going. And then you get the people who will stay till it's done. And I think it's best, I think sometimes if people, it's like that, the whole group really has to want there to be a resolution. Otherwise, you're just going to go round. And things that are problems, that are ongoing problems, are just where people bury their heads in the sand and they don't want to face a particular issue. So it'll come round again and again and again, like it will in your individual life, things
of
that
course, it's the same.
And eventually, when it gets to the pain of not dealing with it gets bigger than the pain of dealing with it. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
then
that's fine.
Will get addressed eventually, hopefully.
So, do you think it's worth when you get the villages up and running? Do you think it's worth having a regular event in the course of this, the group thing? I'm tempted to say educate people on how to go on, so that the confusion can be avoided.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like re-education classes in a sort of.
Aimed at who are you talking?
Well, just everybody. I think if there's a routine where people regularly go along and listen, and everybody sort of listens to somebody articulate what it is they think behaving correctly is in these environments, then that is how you propagate the zeitgeist. It's not just about doing it, but about being open about what expectations are of people. Because it's not whether or not you've emptied the latrines necessarily, but whether or not you're constantly dodging it, innit, basically.
That's right, yeah. That's correct. So I guess the lesson to be learned is communicate as much as possible, get your problems dealt with as soon as possible, and have regular meetings where people have an opportunity to speak to the entire group.
Boxing gloves.
Just in case. Just in case the talking stick doesn't work.
I was going to say, isn't there a better version of the talking stick where they pass the peace pipe round? That would prevent people hogging it too much because they just end up asleep, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
So, only basically, so long as you're not a total lightweight, you can have a reasonable turn, then pass it on.
Exactly. For every 30 seconds of verbal, you've got to take a mouthful of smoke. See how long you last.
So it's having these sort of discussions that bring up these ideas. You'll all be doing it next year.
You'll be doing it next week.
You've started the trend, Simon.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't say that. It was Mike.
You got you've sent him
in the peace pipe.
Sorry, could you say that again?
We need to grow plenty of plants in the permaculture way to put in the peace pipe.
That's absolutely right. Actually, our guest next week is going to tell us all about hemp growing and all the mechanisms of that. But from what little I know about it, it's one of the super plants that can restore brownfield sites just simply by growing it there. It's a fantastic plant. You leave the rootstock in after the crop, and it actually puts more in than it takes out.
Wild.
Yeah.
It's brilliant stuff. But so listen for that one next week, peeps.
Yeah, that'll be awesome to listen to that and get some good ideas. We've got a few questions that you might want to have a word about. Do you think transition towns can work? From Lucy.
What's the definition of a transition town?
Yeah, be careful with this, because it sounds like a common purpose phrase to me.
I know. Well, some of them. I mean, when we were up at the Green Festival in Newcastle, do you remember there was a transition town stall there? Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah, I didn't go over to that one though. I went over to the legal man.
Yeah, absolutely. I meant to go over and speak to the transition town folk and maybe get them on camera just to see what they were thinking, or try and get some good quotes out of them. But it just never happened. We were, I guess, busy doing other things.
So are these the same people then in local government talking about transition towns and that, or is it a different thing altogether?
Exactly, that's it. I mean, you look at sustainable development, regional development, and you could even start talking about Agenda 21, and they know
that Venus project.
Well,
don't get me started.
I was at a transition town in Sussex, actually, in Forest Row, and the question on their little leaflet was, could Forest Row be sustainable of itself? You know, like them just. And the woman who was organising it, though, was very nervous about us talking about the law stuff. The people who were at the meeting, though, I think the thing is, like with any organisation, like Stop the War, obviously totally corrupt. Doesn't have any intention of doing anything positive other than giving people a vent so that they go back home at the end of the day. Same with the transition towns. It's like there are some very good people in it who are very interested in stuff, but in and of itself, I've heard that it's common purpose stuff, and it seems to be, you know, like control, a certain level of control to stop people taking freedom. They still want the like monetary system, but like having their own little local currencies and things like that, but still connected into the general monetary.
Yeah, it's some sort of controlled response mechanism to attract people with the right idea into something that's sidetracked.
Yeah. It's a way of keeping things local, which I think is good, considering the food legislation that's coming in. But also, obviously, not all communities have the land resources for that, especially if brownfield sites are closed off to them. You know, the poorer areas, like Forest Row, is an affluent area with lots of forest and stuff around it.
It has some sort of ecosystem to support it, however.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, go on, touching on that, the sustainable development and all of the transition town stuff. At the minute, it's all about zero carbon. You know, carbon credits. How can we go zero carbon? So they're trying to get these thoughts into the public, as well as actually taking some action to make us think that they're doing the right thing at the same time. So they're going to have to go for things like creating these zero carbon buildings and allegedly low-cost homes, and these new little towns that are close to zero carbon, just to keep the people happy who are demanding it. But in reality,
they've just corporatized the ideal of it, haven't they? Basically,
exactly. And all of these I mean, you know, we've mentioned it on radio before. And you can go to thenorthernecho.co.uk and check this story out about the Eastgate ecovillage, which, I mean, the public are dead against it. It's up in the Dales, and it's all corporations that want to move in there and set up the spa and the hotels and the new buildings, and it's just how to go this green route, but keep the business going, the business going.
Of a weekend. It's like Blue Circle sponsoring an eco-village, really, isn't it? It's just unspeak to the ridiculous degree. I mean, if it is, all I can say is these transitional communities, whatever they're supposed to be, if it is common purpose, then you're better off reading it as transit camp, I think, because that's all they'll end up being. Low-cost accommodation while they get round to shipping out all the ones who don't want to be slaves anymore.
Something that's just come up that I'll ask you before I forget. You mentioned an eco-village that was either on a lake or next to a lake that was built that might not exist anymore. Do you remember that one?
Mortlake? Oh, right.